This is She is Radiant, a podcast to help you embrace motherhood in all its radiance. I'm Janaea. I'm a faith-filled woman, wife, and mom of 3. I'm knee-deep in the mom thing with a very full house and loving every bit of it. Motherhood these days gets mixed reviews, so I'm here to give you mine. I'll shed light on all of it, my own experiences, trending topics, and conversations with like-minded women whom I admire. She is radiant, and yes, I mean you. Welcome back to the She is Radiant podcast with Janaea McClure. My name is Janaea. We have a very special guest here today. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am the co-founder of Jade and Kaiko, also of the House of M, which is the House of McClure, Maurice McClure.
Thank you so much for being here today. Today we are talking about marriage, love and marriage, but more specifically, marriage after kids. I think it's a very important topic, and it's one that a lot of people don't like to talk about just in general. I feel like it's one of the many taboo topics of parenthood and motherhood. So we're going to go into that today, but before we do that, just wanted to say welcome back and a quick plug to my Radiant Women community on Instagram. If you want to join my subscriber community, I would more than love to have you join. We have about 15 of us right now.
Let's go.
Women only. Sorry, guys. But if you join my Radiant Women community, you will get things like prioritized messaging, social chats, broadcast channels. I do PR giveaways, and just a great community to come together and talk about all things motherhood and faith and breastfeeding and postpartum and all the good stuff that women go through in early motherhood. So quick plug for that. This episode, as always, is sponsored by our company, Jade and Kaiko. And last week, I don't know if you follow us on our business Instagram, but one of our most popular products made Oprah's favorite things for the 2024 holiday season. We were very excited about that. Maurice is very much the behind the scenes muscle of our business. A lot of inventory hauling, inventory counts, shipments.
Inventory manager.
All that jazz. So we're trying to get him to be more customer facing.
I can do it. It's just, my days of enterprise kind of took a lot of that energy away from me.
Yeah, exactly. So give us a follow there, pick up some holiday gifts. We started this company together when our first son was born. We just had a little bit of a creative itch, and it's really been a fun learning experience for us to have our own family business. And I think it was important to us to start something that our kids can eventually own. We can teach them about and hire them for. So, yeah. Anything else you want to say about that?
No, I'm just excited to be, hanging out with Oprah. She's a fantastic person.
We have not met Oprah, okay?
She's a fantastic person, and it's just a delight to see her every time I do.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's like saying, what's up to my auntie?
Yeah.
Hey, auntie,
manifest. Yeah. Manifest it. All right, let's jump into our episode today. So we've got a little bit of an agenda. We have a lot of questions. So I posted that we were going to be going through a marriage episode, and I was going to have you on the show, and everyone is very excited about it because I think you're very popular on my Instagram. You know that?
Well, you're quite amazing yourself.
So we'll go into our trending topic of the week. Then I've got a couple topics within the marriage after kids conversation, and then we're going to go into quite a hefty AMA. So it's AMA is Ask Me Anything. So these are questions submitted to us, and then you and I can both answer them and work through them. And I think that'll be the bulk of the episode. So what I usually like to do is a trending topic of the week, typically what I'm seeing on TikTok or the Grams. I know you're not a big TikTok guy.
I'm not, but I'll be on that Gram, though.
Yeah. Why aren't you a TikTok guy?
I mean, I feel like I only need one thing. Because if I'm already on TikTok and Instagram, I like to play video games, too. There's just a lot of screens to manage. So
that's true.
Why don't I just focus on one app so then I can dedicate the other screen time to, watching football and video games.
Yeah, that's true. It's funny because Maurice will send me reels on Instagram that I had seen on TikTok months before, and I'm like, ooh.
You could. I have a TikTok. You could just always text it to me.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Just text it to me and I'll open it up on TikTok instead of going in my TikTok.
Curate your algorithm. What I found this week was it was really heartwarming and heart-wrenching. Have you ever heard of the term living room family?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so this is something on TikTok that I've seen everyone kind of like coming into a realization of, oh, like I have a living room family. So the term living room family has been coined because it's a family or an environment in your home where everyone just kind of hangs out in the living room. Like your kids always hang out in the living room or hang out wherever you are, as opposed to hanging out in their own rooms. And I guess you either fall in one of two camps. You're very much like hang out by yourself in your room and don't come out into the common areas, or your living room family where everyone's kind of always everywhere at the same time. And so there's a lot of videos on TikTok where it's just like, I had never understood why my kids never want to hang out in their room. They're never in their room. They have toys in their room. They have books in their room, and they never want to hang out in their room. And I always thought that because Malachi and Jade, like, will always be like, hey, do you want to go play in your room? They're just like, no, no thanks, no. And so I'm just like, why don't they want to? It just makes me feel like we're wasting rooms. You know, they have their cool personal space in there. But behind living room family is an environment where your children feel safe to be out, you know, in the common areas, in the living room, in the family room. And like so many people are getting emotional about it because they're just like, I was not raised in a living room family. I was in my room all the time and I was told not to come out unless I was told to come out or if it was dinner time. Did you come from a living room family or
it was a mixture of a hybrid. So it's like we had our own rooms with our own TVs, but our house was so small that you just
were everywhere.
And there was so many people in one home. So it was like, of course.
Everywhere all at once.
Yeah. So it was like I was either in my mom and dad's room because they had pay-per-view and I could watch like wrestling or movies, or I would be in my room because I'm playing my Nintendo with Marcus, or we'd just be hanging out watching sports because my dad had got home and he got his little Budweiser and he, watching the Niners play or whatever, or boxing or basketball. So it was just like we were everywhere all the ways together.
Yeah. So do you have a sense that like your family was always just kind of together regardless of the room you were in?
Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably why we're so tight right now. It's just that we're just so used to being around each other in such a close environment that it's weird when you grow up and you're like too far away from
it,
you know?
Yeah, and I think I'd never seen it that way because I was like, man, why don't our kids ever want to hang out in their rooms? Because I mean, I was an only child, so I would just like go to my room because I had, not because my parents were like, go to your room, but just, it's where all my stuff was. Yeah. But now I think more and more, especially parents that are way more involved with their kids, I feel like millennial parents we're a different breed. And so like just creating a safer and more open environment for your kids to just be themselves everywhere is really interesting. So I just was scrolling through the comments. Everyone was just like, I did not come from this kind of family, and I'm glad to know that I am creating a living room family for our home. I
would say for right now, we are definitely doing a great job of that, but I just can't wait to see when these boys click up and Jade is just tired of their mess. She'll be like, I'm going to head to my room.
Yeah, it's going to be, on those moments where I'm like, man, can they just go play in their room? And like, they've got all these great things that their friends and family have given them, and they've got a great space, but they just want to kick it wherever we're at.
I mean, and I know it's not like they don't bring the stuff downstairs.
Yeah. It's like, I feel like half of parenthood is just putting things back where they belong.
They just bring I don't even think I grew up with so many toys just being in a car. Like toys is in the car.
Yeah.
All day.
They bring stuff down from their rooms all the time, and it's quite frustrating, but it's also cute.
Yeah. Well, because Malachi's dragging his tractor and his dump truck everywhere. Or bringing a car down.
Yeah. But as always, I think it's one of those things where it's only going to last so long. So why not cherish it? Why not cherish the living room family for just a little while longer?
As long as they don't touch my PS5.
As long as they don't touch the game console.
And my Legos will be okay.
Yeah. So let us know. Are you a living room family? Did you come from a living room family? Are you creating a living room family? Or are you just like Please go to your room and leave me alone, family.
I need my break.
I need my break.
Can I get 15?
Yeah, we are big proponents of the quiet time.
Oh, absolutely.
We have the quiet time. Ever since our daughter, our oldest, dropped her nap, we instituted the quiet time hour between two and one and three, 1 and 2,
2 and 3, depending on where she's at when Malachi goes down.
Yeah, so she's got to draw or paint or listen to her audiobooks or something while we get our halftime break.
Yeah, we gotta have halftime.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yes, exactly. How are you doing today? Are you ready to talk about marriage?
Yeah, always. I'm always ready to
Do you
talk
want to
about
give...
you.
I feel like I've talked about you quite a bit on my social media, and I always ask for permission. I never want to disrespect our privacy in a way that, he's not okay with. But maybe we can start out with tell us a little bit about yourself, or do you have a favorite moment of ours when we were dating, or, what comes to mind when you think about the early years of us?
Are you talking about
together?
Besides how we...
We're not going to go into how we met.
Okay. I love the story.
Okay.
I love it.
People got the abridged version. We're not going to go into the abridged version.
If you ever want to get the detail, the behind the scenes, just let me know.
Okay.
I'm always ready to drop that story.
Okay.
I really enjoyed that. What was really important to us was just even though we were so incredibly broke, we just tried our best to at least go on so many different types of adventures, whether it be just going down
when
to Santa
we were
Cruz.
dating.
Yeah, just going down to Santa Cruz just because we had the day off, or renting a car and going up to fail seeing the redwoods. We're driving all the way there, not noticing that we needed a ticket, and then just turning right back around.
Yep.
But just being able to do stuff like that, just get up and go was, and just do a little adventure, no matter how big or small, was great, because I never really, even growing up out here, I never really explored it as much as I did until I met you. Mm. So that was always a great highlight. Even hiking, you got me into hiking.
We haven't hiked in a long time.
But we used to a lot.
We used to.
I was I never hiked before. I thought this was a leisurely stroll, but you just striking up these mountains, and I'm I guess I got to keep up.
Yeah, I grew up hiking, and I have my mom to thank for that. She always had us in a backpack going somewhere, like climbing mountains. So.
Oh, is that why we got the backpack that we never used?
Mm-hmm, yep. Yeah, I like all the adventures we went on when we were dating. And I think it's, looking back on it now, I'm really happy that in our early marriage and in the years that we dated, we really took advantage of going everywhere together. And now I feel like we will eventually get back there again, as not only when our kids get older, but when they're out of the house eventually. Yeah. And it'll always come back to what got us here to begin with.
It'll evolve. I bet you when Kenzo's Malachi's age now, we can just pick.
We'll be more willing.
Yeah, we can just pick up and take him somewhere.
Yeah.
We're going to go to this large trip to see our family in Seattle, and then we got Disneyland coming up. So it's I just think it's just being a lot more brave than we have been.
Yes. Yeah. It does get easier. I think a lot of people say just getting out of the house is an adventure in itself. And that's so true. But Absolutely. It does, with repetition, soccer. This is our first year that we did a sport with our oldest. It was our first year in soccer. And getting out of the house every Saturday, that would be unheard of years ago.
Oh, man. Especially that early in the morning. Packing up all that stuff.
And we didn't just do it with her, we did it with 3 kids.
Yeah,
getting out the house, getting to the soccer field. So it gets easier, just the repetition. And
we create a routine of the night before, we need to pack up the car with XYZ.
Exactly.
So we could just roll out of bed and get them breakfast and dip.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. I think we'll eventually get back to getting to our adventures with them as they get older. Yeah. I think once we're out of strollers... And,
that's where it really getting it.
Just getting out of the stroller age. I think you're right. When Kenzo gets to be maybe 3, 2.5 or 3, we'll be out in the world.
We'll have a 2, 4, and a 6-year-old. Well, how are you doing? I feel like you asked me how I'm doing today.
I'm doing great. It's election day. Got out to the poll station. We usually vote by mail, but we didn't do it this year. I don't know.
Because it's right around the corner.
Yeah, our polling station is right around the corner from our house. So But I still had to wait in line an hour. Like, that was not fun.
I did not have to wait. You just went at a terrible time.
You didn't wait?
I walked right in.
Oh, come on. It's election day. Hope everyone got out the vote.
Rock the vote. Remember that?
Rock the vote. Rock the vote. How old were you when Rock the Vote?
I don't know. Was that when Obama was coming up?
I don't remember. I was too young to vote in 2008.
When did Rock the Vote happen? Oh, then that was Obama. Rock the Vote.
Yeah, was that Rock the Vote?
That was my first. That was
was your first?
Yeah, me, Jared, and Daryl.
Wow.
Went and voted in the slow.
Look at that.
I know. My first time. Put Obama on the back.
First black president. Look at that.
Won't he do it?
Won't he do it? Okay, so before we hop into some marriage topics, how long have we been married for?
7 years.
Oh, nice.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know I know the date.
Did not skip a beat. Did I stutter? Nope. Mm-hmm. We have been dating since 2012.
October.
So, yeah, we just hit 12 years dating and 7 years, almost 7.5 years of marriage.
Yeah.
Time has flown.
I know. A lot has happened.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say marriage has been easy, but I also would say that it has been easy with you.
I think it's been easy.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's just because before we even got married, we moved in a way that we have grown with now. I think the first thing that we established that is just we're a team. Mm-hmm. You know, each person gives a certain amount in certain moments. The other person may only be able to give 20. The other person gives 80. And we've moved like that since the jump. And it kind of helped us build where we're at right now. And so I think that it's just been easy because it's just it's kind of like our couple identity.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I just think the term like easy can be misconstrued as like it's been a walk in the park. Like it's always been like such like it gives the impression that it doesn't require work.
Oh, like there's just
effort.
Rays of sunshine.
Yeah, it's just always sunny. You know, and it's funny because we don't have disagreements. I think like our disagreements are few and far between. Like we don't fight, we don't argue. I think we've gotten to a point where like we communicate well through those. Like those are not easy situations, but we don't like scream or yell at each other. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, I think it has been easy because we've put in the work to push through those things.
Well, we never even did that in the first place. Why do you think that is? Because we've never yelled at each other. That's not something we do. We just like kind of talk about it.
Yeah. Whenever I'm upset, I just need my quiet time.
Yeah, and I give you a quiet time.
You just leave me alone.
Yeah, I was like, oh, well, it's that time.
Yeah.
I'll be over here.
Yep. Yep.
Give you some space.
Yeah. Because how long did we date before we got engaged? 4 years, 3 years.
2015. December 2015.
Mm-hmm. So 3 years. Yeah. I think we had we were still young when we met though. I was 20.
In a bar at 20.
You know what? We're not going to go into that. I made some decisions, but those decisions got me right here.
We are right now. I'm not mad. I'm not mad. Shout out to Amber.
Yeah, not a lot of people know that the story about how we met, I was not supposed to be in a bar. I was not of age. But you know what?
Won't he do
Won't
it? He will make a way. He said, no, we ain't blocking this blessing today.
Nope. The blessing is unblocked.
Nah.
Yeah, but I think we did have the advantage of taking our time in dating, even though things moved kind of quickly. I feel like we took the chance of wanting to be together, even though you moved to a different city.
2 months later.
Yeah, I think we just had something, even being so young, just had the conviction that this was different.
Special. I mean,
it was special. Really was. Yeah. And yeah, I was not looking for a relationship, that's for sure. I don't know if you were either, but it just kind of happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing my mom always preaches is just like when you find that special one, you better put 110% in that because God has only given it to you one time.
Right.
So it's like if you miss your ship, that's on you.
Yeah, don't miss the ship. I think what's important about this conversation is how your marriage changes after having kids. Yeah. And I actually got some disagreements on some things that I've said in the past couple of weeks around marriage after kids and the fact that it's hard and it changes your dynamic in your relationship, and that it's important to prepare for that and know that you are going to change in your dynamic. You're going to change as an individual now that you have a new person in your life. And I've gotten some people like disagreeing with that. What do you feel about marriage after kids? Like thinking about our marriage, how has it changed? And like, what are some of the hard moments that come to mind when you think about that?
To me, when it comes to just marriage in itself, was already expecting that there's going to be a change, that we already kind of went into with all the counseling and of course like the folks around us, that we're not going to be the same people in 2024 as we were in 2017. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like just knowing that and being able to stay consistent and lean on our 3-man weave, you, me, and God, we're going to be all right. I feel like it's helped us as we've grown as people, because we're not the same kids we were.
Yeah.
I mean, when we got married, I was 28. I'm 35. We middle-aged now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, of course, like already knew that we had to navigate the growth and development, but still be like together.
Yeah.
And so I think that when it came to having kids, it was just taking that ideology and applying it here. And there were some hard times. I know, like, originally, especially when we first had Jade, we didn't know what we were doing. We were new parents.
Whew,
you're going through
times.
postpartum, and it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. You don't know what you're doing, and I don't know how to, like, support you, because you think, like, you have a baby. I want to give 50-50. I want to help as much as I can.
Right.
But, thankfully, having a great support system, like having great examples as Maurice and Talaya, my brother-in-law and my sister, having folks that I could really talk to kind of helped me understand like where I'm supposed to play,
right,
and where I fit in. And so that's what I feel like set the stage to help with that transition, because I'm not gonna lie, it is hard, but it's like we are able to grow with them as they're growing too, because we've only been parents for 4 years.
Yeah.
And they've only been alive for like 4 or less. So it's like we're learning at the same speed, but we just got to learn where we play and where we fit in each individual situation and scenario.
Yeah. There was one comment that I got about how having a child should not change your relationship. Do you agree with that?
I would say it should never change the foundation of your relationship. Like, we established even before we had kids that it's you and me first, and then the kids. Mm-hmm. Not to say that they're not important. It's just that it's like being on a plane. Like we can't assist them, unless we put the mask on ourselves first. So it's like, if we're not moving in unison, then they're not going to follow. We're the team captains. They're learning from us each and every day on how we even treat each other. That's how they're going to treat, their future spouses, or even just each other in general. So I think that I agree that it shouldn't change the foundation, but there's going to be things that do change.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, I think that's a good way of saying it, because I actually disagreed with that. Because I, to your point earlier, of course it's going to change. Like, of course your relationship is going to change with a child. Yeah. I think you just having a child and becoming the role of mom and dad changes you as a person. Like you're just going to grow into a different role, and then you're going to have to learn how to work with your spouse when they're in that new role. Yeah. And so I think that in itself changes you grow in that change. Yeah. Right. But I like the way that you had put that your foundation should stay the same. Yeah. Because I had never really thought about it that way.
Because that's what got us here. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think even in sports, and I know I talk about sports all the time.
Maurice loves a good sports analogy. He loves a good sports analogy.
But I mean, because sports is a really good depiction of like real life, especially football. So one thing that has always been tried and true is like when things start going awry, when, shit isn't working the way you want to, like your coach is always just like fundamentals, just do the everyday fundamentals, just the little stuff. Mm-hmm. You need to do that first before you really start going past that. And so that's what I think when it comes to like our foundation. It's like when things start going awry, we get this new hat of being a mom and being a dad, but still wanting to be a great husband, being a great wife, or just be a great a person in general. You're trying to balance on that. Like, where do the fundamentals fit? Where's the foundation for all that? Let's stand on that so that then we continue to build this new room or this new level within this house that we're creating.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're spot on. Thanks, sports analogy.
Hey, man,
Look at you and your sports analogy. The sports analogies always hit home.
Here for the
Not
dots.
Always for me, but for a lot of people, because I'm just like, I don't understand that.
So when you get a nose tackle.
What? What are you talking about? So let's go into that a little bit. I don't know if there's a lot of people who follow me that are engaged or considering marriage, but I think just going off of what you just brought up on foundation, let's talk about the premarital stuff that we did, because I feel like so our parents got us into a couple months of premarital counseling with our pastor, and I think at the time we did not know why this was valuable.
You're like, what are we doing with this time?
Right. And not that we didn't enjoy it. Like, we did appreciate the exercise. So what had happened was my mom put us in connection with her pastor, and he was the officiant at our wedding. And so he committed to doing, I think it was 2 or 3 months of premarital counseling. And he was down in my hometown and we were still up in the Bay Area. He had sent us a book to read separately, and in parts of that book were exercises going through things like morals, values, finances, how we envision raising children or building a home. It's things that were just so far removed from our relationship at the time. Like, we were just kind of like,
ho-hum.
Yeah, ho-hum. We're paying rent. We're living together. We love each other.
We're engaged.
We've got a healthy relationship.
We're adults.
Yeah, we're good. We got this. We got this. And so I think when we went through those exercises and like the course of the premarital counseling, we did not feel the value of that until well after we were married.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Yeah, and I think now in pushing through some tough real life situations, like the premarital counseling was like practice for the real game.
Yeah, I mean, because honestly, it puts in those, nice. It puts those questions and those thoughts in your mind, like you're saying, that we weren't even tripping off of at the time.
Right. I think finances is a great example of that. I don't think you really understand how important finances come into play in your marriage until you're actually there and you're in the tough conversation. You're like, oh, I haven't actually practiced this hard conversation. And I think even when we did, so in the course of premarital counseling, we were going through things like if you're assuming someone's debt, because we are of the belief that two become one in marriage.
Yeah.
Like, we as an entity are one person. His situation becomes my situation, and my situation becomes his situation.
So we both have college debt.
But we both have debt. Yeah. I have college debt, so now he has college debt.
At least I went to school for free.
Right. I have bad credit, so now you have bad credit. Like, those are very tricky conversations that, frankly, you don't really no one likes to have those conversations with anyone, because I think there's a lot of pride and shame that come with financial situations. And so even going through that exercise, I felt hesitant to even go there. But the fact that we even kind of touched on it a bit, at least set the expectation that, okay, we're going to eventually have to figure this out. Yeah. Like, IRL. You know what I mean? That exercise, when it came to things like, okay, we're married, now we actually have a kid, we need to buy a home. What are our finances doing?
I think originally when we first bought that car, that's when we were like, oh, we need to have better credit if we ever want to get out of this Oakland apartment.
Right, exactly. And yeah, we have made vast improvements with like each other, but even having those conversations with each other was so uncomfortable at first, at least for me, because I was just like, I don't know, I felt a lot like I come from a very, very hardworking family, my mom and dad are very hardworking people, and they have given everything to, give me a good childhood. But I think I didn't have a ton of financial literacy growing up. I think it made that conversation in our marriage a little more shaky to have, because I wasn't super set up in the best way to feel confident or feel unashamed of, certain situations.
I think that when it came to that originally, same thing as you, we had a large family with hardworking parents that, did the best that they could, but there wasn't too much in the way of trying to actually get us to understand what debt does, or even what collections is. Mm-hmm. I mean, growing up, it was just you just dodge the bill collection. Don't answer that phone, right. Or don't even worry about paying that bill. As long as your lights are on, you're solid. Mm-hmm. And so trying to step out of that and just wanting to actually educate myself, because I knew that we were becoming one. And we were already doing little things we were oh, well, it makes sense if instead of you paying the Comcast bill and me paying the Netflix bill, why don't we just share a joint account?
Yeah.
Just because we're both utilizing all these things.
Right.
Why don't we just share an account? There were all these things that are just coming out of the team's pocket.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and the fact that we have, it's probably been, I think we started doing this during when we were engaged, but we have combined our finances for so long now that I can't even think about a time before that, or even think about have you pay me back for something or me pay you back for something. I think one piece of advice that I would give to, couples that may be having a hard time with, something as sensitive as finances is, you just got to get past the discomfort of bringing everything together and having all cards on the table. And that's from here's my financial situation, but also this is our money.
Yeah, this is
my income is his income and his income is my income.
Yeah.
This is our, this is our income.
It's our joint pot.
And yes. So there is no, can I do this? It's let's make these financial decisions together. And it's our money. You know what I mean? And it's I don't know, it sounds simpler than it is, but I think that's having that wall down and being on the same page financially has really it's just made everything that much there's a weight off, to not have to think about, our just having those financial barriers up between husband and wife.
Just to go back to when I was discussing how originally we were really big on understanding that this is a team, and if somebody can give 20 right now, 20% of whatever they have with effort, the other person is supposed to step up and be a teammate and give 80. I think when it came to the finance thing, but I remember you originally just, when we started combining stuff, because this was a couple years into living in Oakland.
Yeah.
I think it was right after we got engaged, because I don't want to see you see me taking out thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars and paying it.
Right.
Because Patrick gave me a loan. I don't want to be why are you paying Patrick a loan? But you were just telling me that there were certain things growing up where it was finances was really that discussion was really tough for your parents. And so I was oh, that's one of those things where I don't want it to be tough for us. So if you're already if we're taking this step and you're a little hesitant and you're I don't like this because this is what this is a misstep for my parents. And I'm okay, well, I'm not trying to hold us back. So even if this is uncomfortable for me, this is where I need to give 80%.
Right.
Because you can only give 20 right now.
Yeah.
And so that's just that foundation that's helped us really get over anything that's a little uncomfortable, have those hard conversations where it's understanding where your teammates at so that then you know how much you need to give.
Yeah, it took me a minute. It took me a while. It was really uncomfortable for me at first because I felt certain shame about certain debts or certain situations. I was spending more than I was earning, and I just felt a lot of shame with that. And I think you coming to me just zero judgment and really making me feel I was safe and that you weren't going to leave me.
You got debts.
My mind, man. My mind has taken itself so many different places, but just embracing like my vulnerability with finances. And like, we've gotten to a point where that's like, it's such an easy thing now to just talk through like, oh, like we've got to budget this, or like, what is our, family income look like? Let's readjust some things, like we're spending too much, or like, oh, we should be saving more. Those conversations are much more fluid now that we've pushed past like those things. Like we're not going to go too deep into this, but we have one joint account that our bills come out of. Like our paychecks go into one account. There is no like, it goes into respective accounts and then we like come together. It comes together first and then we pay bills and then we figure out, okay, what do we have to play with? Like what's going into savings? What's going into stocks and bonds? What's going into X, Y, and Z? Yeah. It's not the individual first. It is the marriage first. Yeah. If it's one thing that I took away from that premarital counseling and those fundamentals, is the financial conversation was such a good one to even start learning about early on, because that's always going to be a source of difficulty, and I think in every marriage, for sure. For us, we are very much of the belief that two become one, and now we are one in our marriage, in financial decisions, in parenting decisions, in our morals and values. So, yeah. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I just that counseling was really eye-opening, like you said, and it was Pastor West, right?
Pastor West.
Shout
out Pastor West.
West Side. That really helped us walk through that. I think that, and even if, like, because there's great couples and great families that they didn't get married. They've been together for an extended amount of time. So even that could be even beneficial for those folks that just want that type of counseling if they don't want to go the marriage route, because you don't have to be married to have a great relationship with somebody.
That's true.
I'm saying that we do.
Yeah.
That's what we do over here. But, different folks, different strokes.
In terms of those fundamentals, how important do you think it was for us to align on our values and our faith, if not the most important thing?
Yeah, I think that was one of the basis and foundations that we kind of built. Like, we've been talking about being a team and saying you, me, and God since the beginning. And so it was one of those things where it was like, we don't go to church all the time. We read our word as much as we do. And, when you even met me, it was like something I'm like, I just read this every night. This is what I do every night. And you were like, yeah, I'm all the way with that. So just having that be the forefront of us really means that the other stuff is just going to fall in line. Like, whatever happens, as long as we stay right there on that 3-man weave, we'll be okay. So I think aligning right there off the jump, and just in the way that we practice our faith and the way that we may struggle with it sometimes, and that being okay, was really important from the jump, just because it's an important part of who we are as individuals.
Right. Another thing that I've been talking about this week is putting our marriage first before our children. But then I took a step back and I was like, wait, it's not even we putting our marriage first. It's we putting God first, and then marriage, and then our kids, because you can't feed the subsequent thing unless that primary thing is fed, right?
Absolutely.
So that was another really important part of those fundamentals, those sports fundamentals.
Fundamentals. Do the little things. Run the ball. Yeah. You'll be okay.
Let's go into like the early parts of like the difficulties that we encountered when we had our first baby, because I think it's really valuable for other couples to hear, especially from the dad's perspective, how you might have been feeling in those early months, because I think a lot of moms can resonate with the fact that in early postpartum, like, you are the default parent, like physically, like you're sustaining your baby, you're feeding your baby wants to be back inside of you, and dad is just kind of there like, am I useless?
I don't know what to do with my hands.
What am I supposed to do? So if you can you go through, like, what are some of the most memorable things, in a good way or a really hard way, in those first few months as a new parent, as a new dad? And like, what was the most challenging for you in those early months?
I think initially the dopest thing was seeing the birth of our daughter and this immense amount of joy and pride that I had in you. Because I feel like, after like we had been together for so long, and our love has grown, but I had never been as proud of a person as I was when you gave birth to Jade.
It was very cool to see you that proud of me.
I mean, after each birth, it's like I just can't. It's like unbelievable. Like this shit is really a miracle, and to see you struggle, and to see you give birth, and I'm just like, this is,
especially this last time.
Man, I was like, hey, don't talk to me. My wife she is her. I wish somebody would say something. Man, but that was like just off the jump. Like I was so over the moon that that Jay was born, but I was also like incredibly proud of you. And so I think, you start off these couple of days and you're just like, okay, where do I fit in? Like, I don't know what's going on with latching. I don't know how that's supposed to feel. I see you just, you talking to the lactation consultant, the Kaiser. Should I be looking at videos? Should I be reading more deeply into these books? Or the baby's not sleeping the right way. Like I see you struggling, you're stressed, you're crying for a certain reason because you're frustrated. And it's like, I don't know how to fit in because this baby, it doesn't need me. Mm-hmm. Like I'm like a nice to have, but it really doesn't need me right now.
Did that feel awful?
It did. And I think that, I'm a big proponent of trying to be a great teammate, and I'm always one to like share the burden. But then it was like, there was nothing that I could do there. And so that was very frustrating. And so,
And she wouldn't take a bottle.
And it was just all on you. And I just saw you just being so frustrated and struggling. We couldn't sleep. We're in this loft. I had to go back to work early, so it was a lot all at once. And there was this huge change. And the first thing I did, like I remember being on my way back to work, and I'll never forget this. And I love him so much for it. I'll call my brother-in-law. I've known Maurice since I was like 8 or 9 years old. And so I'm like, look, man, what do I do? Because that's like the closest person that I know that's been a parent for so long. He's raised some incredible girls and my nieces, and and I'm just like, man, like I know he'll be completely honest with me. And he's like, I'm like, what do I do? He's like, man, that baby don't need you right now. Just get in where you fit in. Like if the house is dirty, clean it. If you see her struggling to pick up something, pick it up for her. Like that, that baby doesn't need your 100%. Your effort needs to go into Janaea. And that was the first thing that he told me. And that's exactly that's the play that I run every time. I just know it doesn't need me. I need to take my ego out of it, of just being like, oh, I want the baby to love me. Like eventually.
You'll have your time.
Yeah, I'll have my time. And I have my time with each and every one of them. My time, even right now, my time isn't really with Kenzo right now. Mm-hmm. Like, he knows me, but still needs you. But I know eventually.
I think even more now he's really bonding with you.
Yeah, he's getting older. But I think that first, 3 to 4 months, they just don't need you as much. And you just have to be okay with that. And, who really needs you is you. You need me more than that baby does. And so that was the key piece of advice that kind of set my mind free and let me step outside of myself and say, I need to do whatever I can to make sure that this environment is a really good environment for you to bond and grow with this baby. As of course, I help change diapers and in the middle of the night hold him or her. I'll do those little things, but essentially they don't need me right now.
Was that a hard piece of advice to accept, or did you have to take it quickly that way your mind could shift around that?
That was not a hard piece of advice because it was really evident. As soon as you said that, it was like, you're right. It really doesn't need me because there's nothing that it wants from me. You want me to change the diaper. You need me to change that diaper. You need me to hold it so you can just have 10 seconds to yourself. You want to go take a shower, we'll go on I'll take this baby on a walk. Just do those little things just to give you that space so that you can give your 100% to that baby.
Yeah.
And having that conversation, I'll never forget it. I was driving home it was San Leandro. I was coming from one of those DoorDash sites back in the early days and just talking to Maurice for 30 minutes and him giving me that information was just, and he's always a straight shooter. He will keep it completely honest. And he just did. And I was just like, okay, that's.
At what age did you really feel like you were starting to develop that personal bond with baby? with Jade or with Malachi thinking about, because they're older now.
Yeah.
It's like, when did you start being like, okay, now I got, like, that's my little dude. We're developing that bond. Because those months, I mean, I think if a dad is listening to this saying like, well, that's really hard for me to accept that I can't develop that same bond early on. Like, when did you start to feel that with our kids?
I think with Jade, definitely when we moved into this house and it was like my off time.
It's like 7-8 months.
Yeah, and she needed to be on the bottle and she needed to sleep train. And I'm like, well, this is going to be my job. Like Maurice said, I got to pick and choose where I need to go. So I'm like, okay, mama can't give you the bottle, so who's going to do it? It's going to be me, dog. Or I'm not going to hold you so you can go to sleep. You got to learn how to sleep. I'm not going to be sitting up in here holding you for 3 hours. No, that's not going to happen. I got to clean this house, dog. Like, hey, we got things to do. So I think that setting that early was really dope. So it was like 7 or 8 months. And then, you know, as they get a little older, I really do think the next time around when Malachi was born, that's when she was really like, I want to be with daddy. And I'm like, that's my dog. Hell yeah, let's go. You want a cookie? Let's fucking go. Let's do it.
Yeah, and I think the third time around with postpartum, because regardless of how well set up you are and how many kids you've had, because that newborn phase has just gotten easier and easier because you know what to expect, you know what your roles are. And, you know, even thinking about our most recent experience in the newborn phase, we really kind of knew where each other was. Like, it was like a dance. It was like a beautiful dance that we had choreographed really well. But it's still hard. Like, those months are still really hard. You're not sleeping. You know, it's still tough. But in this most recent time, I feel like you really knew to embrace our older two. Yeah. Just like, this is my job. I'm gonna wrestle them. I'm gonna give them all the attention in the world. Yeah. While our youngest has that time to be with mama all the time. Mm-hmm. So I remember in those early months of bringing Kenzo home, and they only wanted to see daddy. And I was like, oh, like, I can't give my kids my all right now. And that's kind of like the same. It's like the opposite, where this is where he has to shine right now. And I have to kind of step back and be like, okay, I have to give our newborn baby that one-on-one attention, because he deserves that, because they both got that as well. Yep. And our older two, they still need attention. So that's where, dad's got to thrive. So yeah, I think it's tough because I hear, newborn parents, one dad feels inadequate, or dad feels like he doesn't, have a say or have a role or have what, mom has. Yeah. But I think what you just said, taking your ego out of it and then supporting in the peripheral ways is just as important as...
That's that foundational piece where it was like, okay, well, it's me and you and God. So me and you, I need to make sure that you're okay. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure all the rest of that stuff is going to work itself out. Just having faith that and just knowing that it will. And yeah, it's tough. Like, you really want like the hallmark, like, this baby looks at me, smiles all gummy, and is like that.
Skin to skin.
Yeah, you want all the hallmark stuff, but
that'll come.
It'll come. And, and I'm not saying that it never happens, but I just think that in our situation, that's where I really had to just learn, like, this isn't my role. Yeah, and
I birthed the baby. I carried the baby, not you. Yeah, and that's all the baby's known for so long, Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we tend to not think about what the baby is feeling too. Mm-hmm. Just like, what should mom be doing or dad be doing? Like, what does the baby need, at this time? So I think that's really important. In having 3 kids now, our dynamic now. Like, there are things, and I've talked about this a little bit on my page, but we do things to stay connected, especially now having 3 kids. Luckily, they're all sleeping great at night, but to stay connected, even when we have, a lot of time together, what are the things that we've done that you really enjoy that allow us to have like our us time, like where we're getting in where we fit in terms of our marriage and our relationship, that others might want to know how to do as well? Because you lose a lot of that time when you have, these little humans you've got to give all your attention to, especially together, that at the end of the day, it's like, oh man, like, where's time to pour into us? And we might be exhausted, but what are some of those things that we've done that you really think have worked well for us?
I think what we've done has grown from what we originally did. I mean, it just reminds me of, I remember we were having a tough time early on when we were dating, and I picked up that job at Enterprise, and my hours were so strange when I was working at the airport, and we didn't really have that quantity of time that we used to, that we were just so used to having, because you were at Square, so you had a different set schedule, and me, I'm working till like 8 p.m., and so, you've already been off for like 3 hours, so you chilling. And we don't really get that. And then I got to be up early. You got to be up early. So we really started saying, like, it can't be the quantity. We have to not be disappointed in losing that quantity, but really have to invest in what that quality time is going to look like. And I think that doing that years ago has really helped us in this form, because we don't get that quantity that we had originally had prior to having Jade. We don't get to have time to just pick up and go somewhere like we used to. But I really do enjoy that we make those pockets of time that we do get together special. So it's like, if we are together here and we at lunch, man, let's eat some lunch together, watch some SVU for an hour.
It's the little things that we cherish together. We love us some Bensons.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Benson always gets her guy.
Benson always gets her guy.
It's just like clockwork. My man Dick Wolf be putting
Dick Wolf.
But even like with just dinner, I know that we may eat late, but we'll cook together. Even Jade staying up later, we'll still cook. And she'll be, having her quiet time, watching her little show before bedtime, having a snack. But we'll, be together doing our thing. We'll just ask each other, how was the day?
Yeah.
And then just having that time to just relax on the couch at the end of the day, watch a show together, or even just sit next to each other while, I'll play video games and you be on your phone on TikTok.
Just melting together on TikTok.
Yeah, on TikTok. Just making the quality time really important has been, I feel like early on was a great decision for us to really invest in, and has really proven to be fruitful for us now.
Yeah. I think we've done a good job at finding those sustainable pockets of time, because a date night is nice, but those don't happen as much as we'd like them to. So I think we have made our special time together a priority in our day-to-day. So waiting to eat, like you said, after the kids go to bed, so we don't have little hands in our face.
Or trying to be like, hey, can you sit down and eat while I got food in my mouth?
Or having the kids eat our food.
Oh, man.
Yeah, there's a trade-off to everything, and I think while we'll eventually want to have family dinners, right now it's with so many young kids, we need to prioritize us, and we love sharing a meal together. We love cooking together, and so I think that's really special for us, and going on walks, and just the things that are sustainable, that are just as meaningful as a fancy date night, and it doesn't cost as much as a date night. Because date nights are nice. They're nice, those once in a while things, but they are expensive.
And you got to orchestrate getting hella people in.
Childcare and getting things set up, and it's a lot. So that's, those are not the things that happen every week, and the things that we've found happen every day, and we prioritize them. Could we be better at some of these things? I think so. We could get more creative.
Yeah, there's always room to grow.
Yeah, I think we have a tendency of, finding a show that we like. I'm watching Game of Thrones for the first time, and that has been a journey. Yeah. Whew, Red Wedding.
I was about to say, people probably gonna be like, "How'd you like the Red Wedding?"
God, my heart. I had to take a break after the Red Wedding. It was. I was fragile after that episode. But there are things I think we could try, like, having a game night together, or doing things that are not in front of a screen, a big screen, a medium screen, or a little screen. But I think it's worked for us to find those sustainable things during the week that aren't a heavy lift, but are really meaningful to staying connected.
True. Absolutely.
I think it's also helped us, because we co-slept with Jade early on. We were just really desperate for some shut-eye, but I think it's really been important to us to not bed share with our kids, so that we have like our resting place, our space and our bed, right? So that's also been, I think, a way that we set a hard boundary.
Absolutely.
In prioritizing our marriage and having like the respect for our marriage that, like we were saying earlier, like if we don't prioritize our marriage, then our kids will suffer.
Yeah.
And our parenting will suffer. And our partnership is the root of that, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And that's just the play that we like to run. I feel like...
sports analogy.
Hey, you brought me on here.
Let's play. Let's play how many sports analogies in this one episode.
I hope. I'm not doing, and I won't be doing it on purpose. It's just how I speak.
Yeah, it really is how he speaks. He will always do a sports analogy.
I mean, because sports is a great depiction of real life. It really is. Like, not co-sleeping was something that we just decided on early on that we just wouldn't do. Not saying it doesn't work for some folks. It's just that for us, I felt like I really wanted to create that boundary because, damn, you got your own room, you got your own bed.
Yeah,
you spend money on that. Sleep in your own bed. I slept in my own bed.
Yeah,
you know, like you could do the same thing too. You'll be all right.
So before we go into some questions,
okay,
is there anything else you wanted to add in terms of advice for new parents that are maybe going through it right now? They're
it's
in the
just
thick
a
of it.
season.
Say it again.
It's just a season. It's a season of life, just like in sports. Nah, but it really is only a season, and I always have at the forefront of my mind. I was even just talking about this with Daryl the other day, where it's like, shit'll be hard, and I'll be like either annoyed or I just like want 10 seconds and without them just trying to reach for me, or like, Daddy, look at this. But I know eventually there's going to be a future me where it's going to be like, man, I wish I had that 10 seconds. I would much rather be annoyed right now because they're off doing their own thing and I'm not a part of it. So that's just something where it's like, it's always at the forefront where it's like, I just want to enjoy being present no matter the season because it's never going to be the same.
And I think something to tack on top of that, you got to learn how to tap each other in and out.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Especially in the hard moments where someone is screaming and triggering you so hard. I think we're going through a really tough age right now with our oldest and just the meltdowns and the tantrums. And it can get really triggering, especially, you know, having grown up where that wasn't tolerated, in a house where that wasn't tolerated. And he's very good at sensing when I'm about to lose my shit. And so he will come up and be like, you go on a walk and I got this, and vice versa. So yeah, I think just learning to read each other and have a good pulse on each other has been helpful in every stage, the newborn stage, or baby will not stop crying, or, you know, be really uncomfortable, and just taking a beat and learning to tap each other in and out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to some AMA. AMA. We've got a lot of great questions submitted. So let's see here. Ooh, this is a good one. Starting off strong. This question's from Mrs. Lydia Allstott. Thank you, Lydia, for the question. How do you let your partner figure it out and stop trying to tell them how to do things for baby? I think this question is directed at me. But before I answer, I would like to know how you felt in those moments where you could sense that I was agitated at the way you were doing something.
I feel like we've dealt with this prior to us even having kids, because there's been so many different scenarios where I'm just like, is there anything that I can do? And you're like, I don't want to make this list of things that you need to do when I have 1,000 things to do. And I'm like, I'm just trying to help. You have 1,000 things in your mind right there. I'm just asking for one of them. I'll do it. And so it's just, I can feel it in the air when you start to have thoughts build up in there. I'm just want to just try to take some off your shoulders. Mm-hmm. Because I've always thought about the scenarios like, oh, I could either ask you or I could just try to do something that I think you might want, and then you're just going to get upset that I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Like if I'm like, oh, let me dust this right here. That's not what we need to do right now. And it's like, what's the trade-off? I might as well just ask you.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're hitting on a really good, really good one. The way that I interpret this question is with regard to like baby. So I think it's really, really hard to want to have things done your way, but I think you have got to get past things being done exactly how you want them to be done. And I think you got to think about the alternative. So let's use the example of you want baby to be fed or burped or changed in a certain way, or you have a certain routine for baby that you want your spouse to take care of instead of you, but you see that they're doing it in a way that you wouldn't do it, or they're doing it in a way that you wouldn't do it in that same way. You have got to completely let go of that, because the alternative is them potentially resenting you or feeling like you don't have the confidence in them to learn how to be a parent themselves. Like what you just described, Lydia, is exactly what I've been through, but and I think like it's worsened when you are going through things like postpartum anxiety, or you just like are so uptight about a certain thing because the postpartum hormones are everywhere. You're not sleeping well. It's your new baby. You're really scared all the time. But like you are figuring it out, and so are they. And you've got to you have got to instill trust and confidence in who you have chosen to have this child with. And you've got to let them figure it out. And I know that's not necessarily how to do that, but I think you've got to think of the end state of, will they learn how to do it in their own way, and will I be okay with that? Or will the opposite thing happen? And I think the opposite thing is just not good for anyone, because you will feel like you are the only one burdened with this, but that will be your fault because you're not giving them a chance to figure out the right way. There was a time where in the mornings getting ready, I would feel like I would need to be everywhere at once. And I would feel like, I don't know if Maurice has got this. I don't know if he's got it. So I've got to be everywhere at once to make sure I've got eyes on everything. And that's just not helpful for anyone. No. It's not helpful for anyone, because I'm stressed. He sees that I'm stressed. He doesn't feel like I have the confidence in him to take care of his children. And so I think getting through those moments, distracting yourself as much as possible during those moments, and letting them kind of figure it out and develop their own style of doing something. Because who knows, like maybe they'll end up doing it in a way that you didn't even think about. Like there have been so many times where Maurice has done something in a way that I had not even thought about doing it in a certain way with the kids. And I'm like, oh, like I want to do that. I want to adapt to it that way. But I was so caught up in my own, I don't know what it is, like ego, anxiety, like feeling like what I'm doing is like the end all be all, that's just not fair to the entire family. So just distracting myself in those moments, taking like a breath, like distract yourself, go on your phone, put on some headphones, let them figure it out, because if they're not given the chance to figure it out, they're never going to figure it out. Yeah. And like they're not going to get in their own groove. Dad is just as important in developing the relationship with your kids as you are. So I would recommend, like in those moments, try to distract yourself as much as possible and get through it. And then I promise you it's going to be okay. Like it's going to be okay.
A great example, I feel like, of this just from my standpoint was when I went on leave the first time with Jade. We're in this house, I was, like I said, more focused on like you and what you need to do. And it's like, now you're at work and I have this baby and I'm like, okay, how do I put her to sleep? Like, when does she get a bottle? How do we feed her a bottle? This is all new stuff. And I'm like, I can't run up the stairs and ask you because you're busy, legitimately. And it's like, I know I'm not going to sit here with this baby for like 2 hours until it falls asleep, because then that's just going to perpetually create an issue for me later. And I don't want that. And so having that, it was kind of like a sink or swim at that moment, where it's like, I've been around you enough to know like this is what we do. This is our routine with this child. I just have to adapt my style on how we're going to accomplish these things within this routine. And just giving me that space to do that really is helpful. And it's something that we even adapt to our kids, where it's like, I can't sit here and keep filling up your water bottle. You have to learn how to fill it up. Because if not, then I'm just going to be sitting here for years filling up your water bottle.
Letting go. Yep.
Yeah. So it's the same thing.
Yeah. Great question, Lydia. That's a good question.
You did that one, Lydia.
It's turning into a therapy session over here. This is a good question. This question is from Jessica E. Monique. How do you get the energy to do family outings on the weekend when you're exhausted?
Oh, bro, you just got to do
You
it.
just got to do
it. Like, you be terribly exhausted, just tired, but get you some coffee. And how I get the energy, going back to sports. One thing that I thought was really important when I was learning about being like a team captain, like following folks that were captain, is just like there's things that you just don't want to do. Like, I don't want to go to practice, but why is that guy always so energetic and so lively? He's just being funny. He's just like getting the energy up, and just learning from that person. Like, I had a really close teammate that was like, I don't want to do this shit either, but if I sit here and I mope and I groan, then it's only going to spread to everybody else. But why not just be that, that energy that I can help bring everybody else up? Yeah, set the tone. So even though you don't have that energy, if, say, we're going to soccer practice and I'm waking up super tired and I just try to drag Jade out of bed, she's not going to probably have a good soccer game or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I'm just giving her that negative energy. So why don't I, pump it up, ask her what time is it, make sure that she's yelling game time, get her excited about it. No matter, if I need like 5 cups of coffee to get me through there, I just feel like as a team captain in that situation, just have to do it.
Yeah, and I don't even think it needs to be a whole outing. Like, you could do things that you need to get done and take your kids with you. I think it's great practice to get them out into the world and to do things that are joyous for you. You got to go to Target.
That's how Jay
take the kids with you.
Target.
Yeah.
She was at Target.
Right. So you got to, I don't think you need to think about this big extravagant outing you need to do with your kids just for the sake of being a good mom or being a good dad. Just get them out of the house and let them have practice in the world. And that's just as exciting for them as going to a theme park or even just take a walk to the park. And, I think there's always going to be the benefit of getting out and letting them, get some of their stimulation out, because that'll only benefit you at the end of the night when they're tired and they'll pass out. So do something that's joyous for you too, and don't overthink what that something is. If you know that getting out with your kids is going to benefit you and your mental clarity and getting sunshine, then just think about the benefit for you in addition to your kids, and not just I need to take them to this big extravagant thing and it's going to be so tiring. Like, no, go run your errands.
Yeah.
Go do that. That's exciting for them.
And we can be better at it.
Give them a $3 budget and they can go find a toy or something.
That's the best.
Yeah. Budget with them.
Like, we're not going to go hiking as a family.
No.
That's one of those things that we're just not going to do.
Yeah.
But will we go down the street to Target?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Why not? All right. This question is from Jackie ZP55. When it came to discipline for your first child, how did you navigate that as first-time parents and being on the same page?
We was whooping hella ass.
No, we were not. We don't believe in that.
Nah, I was just playing. I got whooped hella, but I ain't gonna do it.
Yeah, I think Maurice and I had very distinct upbringings in terms of discipline, and we knew what we wanted to carry over from that and what we definitely did not. I think we are both on the same page that we do not want to physically discipline our kids, and we don't want to be verbally intense in a way that, is kind of traumatizing. So I think having come from, our parents are old school, right? And in different ways. And I think we remember certain things that, we love our families and we think that they raised us very well. But I think we have come together and kind of pieced together the things that we've thought were effective.
Yeah.
Would you say we've ever disagreed on discipline or?
No, one thing that I do like that we do, we kind of go into it. We speak even now with Jade. It's like, okay, what are we going to do now?
Yeah.
And then we address the problem as opposed to
someone taking charge without aligning.
Yeah, because that's really helpful, because they're going to need both. Because if not, then they're just going to play us where it's like maybe I say we can't do something and then they run to you and you say yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing that you raised. So we recently got into not necessarily a discipline disagreement, but just something had happened on the soccer field. Jade got stung by a wasp, and it was really scary for her. And we didn't know, we were not aligned on how to address the situation with her. So either getting her back on the field or letting her just calm down a little bit. Yeah. Maurice was of the opinion that she needed to get back out there. And I was like, this is her first soccer game. Yeah. She's traumatized. I don't want her to not ever get back on the soccer field. So like, let's just like, let me hold my baby. And so we didn't see eye to eye in that situation. And so that was like a moment of disagreement for us. But we took a step back on like, okay, what are we going to do next week? Or in practice, like things like this are going to happen in sports.
How do we make sure she's not afraid that another wasp is going to be right there?
Right. Exactly. So have like coming together before talking to her about what happens next or how we're going to address this in a positive way, I think can be applied the same way in discipline. So, you know, whenever we get an email from school that something has happened, what we do is we always come together first on aligning on what is the punishment going to be or what are the consequences before we even speak to her separately, because one of us does drop off, one of us does pick up. We need to be on, we always come together first and align. And if it's a situation where one of us is unsure, we tend to defer to whoever's the more confident, because like I trust in him. If he feels really convicted about a certain way, then I'm like, you know what? I actually don't really feel a certain way. So let's go with that. Like let's go with this and see how it goes. But I think it's just having that alignment before going into things like discipline, or we're big on consequences.
Positive and negative.
Immediately taking away privileges. Like that's our bread and butter of our discipline. Like you do this, you're going to lose this privilege. And if you do something right, we're going to reinforce it positively through, you know, rewards and good things. So
I like that we continuously lay like, this is your choice.
Yes, like putting the power in their hands.
The overall theme is like, I want to give you these things. I want you to have a treat at the end of the day. I want you to stay up late. I want you to watch Bluey. But what you're doing is leading to that's your fault.
Yeah. We are working. It's a lot of effort, I think, going into that, but it's worked really well for us. Is showing them that the decisions they make, that they are choosing to do, leads to us taking things away.
and not, you know, just to double down on that, I think one thing that we do is really good is not just delaying what we're saying. We're standing on everything that we say. If you do this, I'm going to, if you look like you're not paying attention to your dinner, then I guess you're done.
Yeah. It's tempting though. It's tempting to just let them, you know, not do or not address it, because it takes time and effort to do that. And it's exhausting, because I know, especially when you know it's going to lead to a tantrum, or you know it's going to lead to screaming and crying. But we are of the opinion that they will not respect us unless we do those things. Say. Yeah. We do what we say. Yeah. If we only threaten something and then don't follow through, they're only going to know that they could get away with so much more.
0 empty threats in this house. And they know
we are 10 toes down in this house.
As soon as I say, all right, they're like, no.
All right. Well, this one's kind of similar. What is your approach in discipline and disagreeing with your partner's methods? So again, you know, I think that we don't ever let it get to disagreement. And if we did, I think it would just require a lot of reflection on our part. I think if we disagreed on something and someone disciplined without consulting the other one first, where we should have been in alignment, like I think there are exceptions to the rule, obviously, if one person's not there. But I think we would see the immediate consequences ourselves of that and not being aligned. And I think if that ever happened, we would want to resolve that out of sight of our children.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like that old adage of praise in public and, you know, whatever in private, whatever people say. something in private. But I think that, even with the wasp thing, I think that just to come back to that, like you said, I really thought it was important that she just get back out there. But that's probably, just being in sports for so long, I just think you need to rub some dirt on and get back out there. But you in that moment were like, no, this is going to be important for her to really just feel this feeling and be scared. She needs to just give her some time. And, trusting in you, I think you're a mom. So I'm going to trust in my partner at that point. Because if you're standing on something and you're really convicted that this could really do some harm for her, then I'm going to trust that. And I want what's best for our kid. And then but I really like, even after that, the kids were down, and then we were like, okay, let's talk about what happened today.
This, yeah.
So that then we know we did that as soon as they were like out of earsight and down, and we were able to at least like have that discussion. And so now going forward, it's like, oh, this is what we're going to do. This is the play we're going to run.
Yeah, one thing I think we are working on, like that we could be better at, is being willing to have those tough conversations hours later. Because I think, we will have a tough moment during the day with the kids, and hours will pass and we'll get over it. But we won't have time to talk about it until, after they go to sleep. And then, really deciding, okay, let's talk about this because it will be beneficial. Like, I don't want to like open up a scab that's already healed, but like healed, has it really, have we talked about it? So really putting in the effort to address those tough moments where we did reach a disagreement, knowing that, okay, we are fully on the same page of this now and we should do this going forward. Yeah. Okay. This question comes from Naya Mia. How do you fix that spark when you feel like it's leaving, especially in the bedroom? When you have kids, it's so hard to find time together.
Finding time.
Yep. I don't know. What's the recommendation you have other than you got to make time? The judge make time.
The judge do make time.
The judge make time.
The judge make time. I think that, just honestly, I think I really did enjoy that we had like that discussion. Like, we need to make more time, or we need to align on like, what are the windows?
Yeah.
We need to have like windows that are just like a standing window
for us.
Yeah. Just to make sure that you can do that, because that's really important. That I would say is like a really important piece of the relationship. So it's like just understanding when the windows are of opportunity.
And not making excuses.
Yeah, exactly. Not making excuses is really important. And I think that when we had that discussion, I think it was right. We really had to have that discussion after we had Malachi, because it was like so many different, the days got shorter because we had 1-on-1 nap and we had 1-on-3, and you're like, this is tough.
Yeah.
And so we had that discussion of like, what are our windows like truly to really, building that type of quality time.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, intimacy is important. It's really hard, especially in the early months, to even find the energy. But I think like you should always remember the benefit that it brings to your partnership, and just kind of like, it's like you're resetting. Yeah. You're feeling refreshed.
Exactly. Step out there with a brand new person.
Exactly. So I think just finding those moments and being in alignment on how you're going to use those moments, whether, you feel like you're lacking in intimacy, or just even like non-physical intimacy, like having a conversation together, like going on a walk and feeling where you are lacking with your spouse.
Yeah. And you can really tell that we did well with those windows because we wouldn't have Kenzo. I mean, it's true.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, gosh. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. This question's from Jackie ZP55. Again, hi, Jackie. Did you talk a lot about how you both want to parent before kids, or learned together as you went? Maybe both.
I think we did. I think it's a little bit of both on that one. I think beforehand we had an idea of like what we didn't want. Like, we had already discussed like not disciplining in a certain way.
Yeah.
The overarching things, like how do we deal with tantrums that just happened along the way.
There are so many parts to parenting that you just don't even think about until you're in it.
Yeah.
You could do all the preparation in the world about how you think you want to do something, like...
But when it's game time.
Yeah, when it's game time. Or, like, I'm never... It's like, I'm never going to let my kids watch TV.
Oh, fuck that. Hey, bro. But
I'm never going to let my kids eat processed food.
Nah, man.
You know what I mean?
Hey, I say I need those processes because it made me this large. It gave me my mutant abilities. I want all of it.
You could plan out the picture perfect parenting that you will want to do before you have kids. And you don't know until you're in the thick of it. And so I think going into it, like knowing those really important things like faith or values, right? But I think you should keep an open mind as to like, you don't really know much yet.
No, you don't.
And neither of you do. Like, you don't know what kind of parent you're going to be. You don't.
Our basis is our parents, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, well, we get that give and that take, or just anybody we speak to.
Right. And I think now, especially being parents, we really kind of understand where our parents' like mindset were.
Man. And I just have so much more appreciation for the shit I put my mom through, where I'm like, I understand. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Like,
yeah.
You had to do so much, and you was working these jobs, and I'm like, hey, my bad.
There are moments, even though we will never physically discipline our kids, I understand why our parents did.
Man. And I'm like, of course I did. Of course I got that beat down. Dora Griggs was swift with the hands.
Yeah.
That's a really good question.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's good to put thought into it, knowing that things could change. It's like a birth plan. Mm-hmm. You have an idea of what you want your birth and delivery to be like, but you don't really have a lot of control over what things will be like in the moment. And every kid's different. Every kid is different. You don't parent like you should obviously love your kids and treat your kids the same, but your kids respond to different things in different ways. Like, in terms of discipline or how we communicate effectively with Jade versus Malachi, they're both motivated by very different things.
Like, you can tell Jade, like, you can get a treat if you do well. She will definitely do it. If I tell Malachi he's going to get a treat for doing well, he doesn't care because he's going to keep begging for that treat anyway. He's like, whatever.
They're both motivated, and they're different ages, but even at that age, comparing from age to age, they're motivated differently. Mm-hmm. Their temperaments are different, and so they respond differently. And so that's also something you got to keep in mind too. Is not every kid is going to be the same. Mm-hmm. Of course, we're all different people. Mm-hmm. This last question comes from And She Loves. What do you think about time management? How do you break away without feeling guilty? I have a hard time asking for help.
Oh, you should take this one. You take the lead.
Why do I got to take this one? Because I don't ask for
because you have a hard time asking for help.
I thought this was more of like a couple's question.
It is, but I'll let you start off with that one. Read it back to me, because as soon as they said it's a hard time asking for help, I was like, oh, Janae.
How do you break away without feeling guilty? I have a hard time asking for help.
Like, break away from being with your kid?
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like I can understand that guilt, but much like anything, with absence, the heart grows fonder. No, I'm just
Maurice definitely has an easier time taking time away from the kids. I think because he just knows that it's a limited amount of time and we've got to take advantage of it as much as possible. And I've learned from you very much in that regard. I think when we have, like, taking our first trip away from Jade, that was really hard for me to just relax and like untense my shoulders. It took a good half a day for me to finally be like, okay, there's nothing I can do now. I'm on an airplane. My kid is not with me. So I think just know, like, you've got to have your small circle of who you trust 100% to take care of your kids, because no one's going to do it like you, but you got to know that either that person's done it before or you trust them completely, and knowing what you'll benefit from that time away, and that this is your time to seize the moment.
Yeah, because just like anything, it's like a plant. You yourself, you need your own space.
Yeah.
Like, you need to learn what it is to be you. I think we get so wrapped up in being mom, dad, and husband that you just forget, like, who Maurice is, who Janae is.
Yeah.
And if you get lost in these other titles, you're really doing yourself a disservice, because you're more than just those things.
Yeah.
And so being able to have that time to yourself, no matter how limited, your sleep at night, I'm going to stay up and play some video games because that's what I need to do for myself. Or I'm going to wake up early and, work out because I need that meditation for myself to be the better me for everybody else. And so, yeah, you will feel guilty about not having that time, but at the end of the day, it's an investment in you so that then you could be better for your other folks.
I love that.
Yeah. Which is why you encourage me to play video games, right? That's why.
Maurice loves his video game time.
Yes, I do.
He earns it.
I do, every day.
Yeah, I 100% with that. Is you gotta know that if you pour into yourself and you water yourself, then that'll only benefit your family and your kids. Mm-hmm. If you are too lopsided in one area, it's no good for everyone. So, and start with little things. Start with little outings. If you want, if you've got a relative or a friend that you trust to take care of your babies, like go to the grocery store, take a little time, take an hour, see how it goes. During nap time, take a few hours after that, and then maybe you can do an overnight thing. But just know that it's only going to benefit you because you will come back clear and refreshed and being able to pour into your individual self, because your identity is not just mom. No. It's not. You are your own person. You have your own hobbies and interests and creativity. And if you give those things some attention, then it's only good for your kids and your family. So,
I mean, the amount of times I've seen my sister and my brother-in-law come back from a vacation to pick up my nieces and just seeing the glow, the aura of just like happiness.
It's always good. You come back and you're so overjoyed to be with them because you're like, this is where I belong.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that was a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming back on to my rebranded podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it. Yeah. He is radiant.
Am I glowing?
You're glowing. No, I love you very much, and I thank you for the time and for shedding light on an important topic around marriage and for being the best dad to our kids. I couldn't have picked a better spouse, a better dad to my kids.
Well, it's the best team I've ever been a part of, and I'm really happy to be growing with you. And if anybody wants to hear the full detail of how we met, please,
please,
I'm always ready to share. Just the nitty gritty.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of the She is Radiant podcast. I would love if you would give this podcast a review wherever you're listening to She is Radiant. You could do it on Apple Podcasts. You could do it on Spotify, anywhere that you're listening. It would mean the world to me if you would give me a rating or a written review so I could help other women, other moms out there who are listening to anything around motherhood.
I would love it as well. I want you to get all the shine.
All right. Thank you so much, and we will catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.